Hey Spartans, it's been a while, and a lot of that is my own fault, life, and honestly, sometimes all this gets really exhausting, which I think is part of the point. But we need to keep talking. We need to keep getting our voices out there. We need to stay informed. And there's a lot of people that are not informed, or that don't care, or are checked out, or they, are focused with life and everything involved in that, and kids and school and work, and I get that. Trust me, I get that. But you need to understand and be aware of some of the stuff that's going on and how it's going to affect you. And so I'm just going to lay out a few things real quick and then let you get back to your day. Number one on my mind is RFK Brainworm Jr., who was sitting before the Senate committee yesterday and just got hammered by everybody, actually. I mean, the Republicans were a little bit more kind about it, and they didn't attack him quite as acutely as the Democrats did, but he got hammered by everybody, and rightly so, because he's an idiot, and he's a nut, and he's the most dangerous kind of con man, because he believes in his own con. I really think that. It's not so much a question of him trying to push something because he's going to get something out of it. I mean, he's definitely got a lot out of it, but I really do believe that he believes what he says when he says that vaccines don't work, that they cause more death and illness than diseases do, and that he believes that they suppress your immune system, and that if we would all just eat better and get good vitamins and fix our food and get the dyes out of our food, that's just going to make everything better. I love how he wants to take corn syrups out of drinks and foods and stuff and replace it with cane sugar, because 400 empty calories of cane sugar, I'm sure, is so much better than 400 empty calories of corn syrup. That's the kind of things that he thinks is going to fix everything, when it's so minor that it doesn't matter. Now, I mean, do people need to eat better and work out more, and are there a few things we could get out of our food? Sure, I'm sure we could have those conversations, and I'm sure there's a lot of work that could be done on that. That would be great. But as long as, and I made this argument to someone else the other day, as long as our McDonald's costs a lot less than trying to buy a bunch of healthy foods at Whole Foods and taking the time to eat it all, and especially when all you have is just a few bucks to spend on food, I mean, as much as people don't want to hear it, a lot of our problems come from the fact of the wealth gap. And as long as a lot of people, the majority of people, barely have enough money to even pay their rent and their electric bills, if they have enough money for that, you're not going to be buying a bunch of healthy foods. And if you're working a couple jobs, you're not going to have time to work out. And you're barely going to get by as it is. You're going to get ground down in the wheel. And taking away vaccines? Are you kidding me? One of the first vaccination policies in this country came about back around the 1850s, I think it was, and it was the smallpox vaccine. And it became a requirement for school children to have a smallpox vaccine. And guess what happened to smallpox? How many people do you know who have either had smallpox or have died of it in this country? How many people do you personally know when you were growing up who have had measles or have died of measles in this country, or tetanus, or diphtheria, or pertussis, whooping cough? And the list goes on and on. And to act like vaccines are somehow making us sicker, when we no longer count the deaths in this country, but we count the cases. See, that's the thing. Back in the day, there used to be hundreds, if not thousands, who would die from these diseases. Some in the tens of thousands every year. But now we don't even count the deaths so much as we count the cases. And several of them were down to zero. Polio is always a good example. Polio vaccine. How many people do you know that have to survive in an iron lung these days? How many of you have even seen an iron lung? How many of you have even heard of an iron lung? It is pathetic that that man is the head of Health and Human Services. I'm not sure if it's the man involved in it or if it's the brainworm. And now they pushed out all the people in the CDC who actually had some institutional knowledge, who have actually worked on this stuff for decades of knowledge and experience in these fields. They pushed them all out. So they get some other people who agree with them that vaccines are just horrible. And so now, as a direct result of that, a lot of people this year are going to have a hard time getting the COVID vaccine. I work in medicine, and I'm going to have a hard time getting the COVID vaccine. I'm swimming in this crap every day, and I'm having a hard time getting the COVID vaccine. And Florida, the Florida Surgeon General, what a quack, has now taken a big press conference to say, we're going to make sure that there are no vaccine mandates for any children in Florida. Who in their right mind is going to try to go down to Disney World with that kind of crap going on? I mean, I feel terrible for the children and for their families and for their sick family members or their immunocompromised family members when the kids start bringing this crap home. The reason that you don't see this stuff hardly anymore is because our immune systems have been primed to fight it. That's what the vaccines do. They teach your immune system how to put on some armor, grab a shield, they give them a good sword, and they send them out to take this crap out before it even bothers you. And now we're just going to take all that away and just tell them they can just walk through the field of daisies and everything's going to be fine as long as you've had your veggies. Magical thinking. I love the concept of magic, but folks, we also have to live in a little bit of reality. And if you want to have some magical and spiritual thinking about things, that's great. But take your damn medicine. Anyway. So yeah, I feel terrible. I feel sorry for these people, and I feel sorry, and I have to apologize for my generation of adults who have been conned into this crap. You know, my generation all got vaccinated because our parents remembered the crap that they used to grow up with, because there was a lot of vaccines, there was a lot of childhood illnesses they had to go through. They knew people who went through it. They knew people who were in the hospitals because of measles, mumps, and rubella. They knew people who ended up with heart problems because of that crap. They knew people who ended up with paralyzation of their legs and couldn't walk because of polio. Their grandparents knew it. And when the vaccines came around, by God, they lined their kids up in those schools, I mean, one after another. Boom, 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 shot after shot. And that stuff disappeared. But now, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years later, we don't remember. And now you've got a bunch of people who've been deluded into thinking that this stuff is more harm than good. Pathetic. So I feel sorry for the ones that have to suffer. I mean, some already are. I mean, the measles outbreak in Texas, largest one in decades. We've had 2 kids die because their deluded parents thought getting a shot was going to be worse than the disease. Moving on. In case you don't know, Mason County, is currently in a struggle with an unnamed data center mega corporation. We don't know who they are because there's non-disclosure agreements been signed by pretty much everybody on the city council and involved in city planning, so they won't disclose who actually owns this data center that wants to come into Maysville. But all kinds of people have been approached to sell their farmland. They say they're going to bring in all kinds of jobs and that they're going to bring in all kinds of money to the city and yada yada yada, but at what expense? Other places where this has happened across the country, electricity bills have jacked through the roof. There's been problems with water scarcity, not to mention just all the noise level and pollution that goes along with these things. I mean, just look at what happened with Elon Musk's data centers, where he set up all these big old gasoline generators that just pump smoke out left and right. Air quality went down. People started getting asthma a lot worse, and people started having COPD problems. I mean, it was awful. So a large group of citizens up there is currently involved in a fight to try to keep this thing out of Maysville. And God bless them. I hope they can stick to it, and I hope they can keep that thing out of there, because I agree. These data centers, I mean, whether they're really need, I've got questions on how much we really need them, but they don't need to be around a bunch of people. That's for sure. There's plenty of other areas across the country where there's big, open, empty spaces. Go there. Go somewhere where you're not polluting on someone else's property, where you're not destroying someone's air quality, where you're not sucking up their water. Oh, and that's the other thing. Where they've been building, they've been raising electricity rates for everybody around the area. As a matter of fact, our entire electrical grid in northeastern Kentucky and northeastern America in general, rates have gone up because of these things. I was watching some really good investigative journalism about this with More Perfect Union. They've done a lot of stories about this. Apparently, the way that these electric companies divvy up their rates, especially when they're doing any kind of constructions going on, is that they subsidize it by increasing the rate for everybody in the area. So you got these data companies who are or these large companies, most likely an Amazon or a Google or an Apple or Musk, one of them, who are all involved in this big AI race. And they go in and they make a big old deal with these electric companies to subsidize their costs. Because God forbid a multi-billion-dollar corporation actually fits the bill to build its own stuff. No, we need to get everybody else to kind of chip in a little bit so it doesn't cost us so much. Because, you know, we're working so hard. We have so much money, and if we spend a little bit of so much of our money, then we won't have so much, and then we can't, you know, do more stock buybacks. Oh, you poor baby. It must be so hard. It must be so hard. Yeah, don't like these people. Anyway, Mason County, good luck. Stay strong. There's a couple other things real quick. Trump keeps losing in the courts, people. At least at the trial level, and usually at the appellate level too. Now, when he gets to the Supreme Court, suddenly he's got a nice little backstop that tends to help him out. But I mean, I can't imagine being some of these judges in these lower levels who constantly keep making these decisions on the law and then watching that get overturned by the Supreme Court with a bunch of ideologued right-wing idiots who are just taking money from all these other right-wing billionaires, because again, the wealth gap, people. It is the wealth in this country and the distribution of it that's causing us the most problems right now. So he recently lost in appellate court about the tariffs. They said that the vast majority of his tariffs are completely unlawful. That's it. Not some of this is okay, but maybe you have the power for this. No. By the law, you are in direct conflict and you are doing something that is against the law. Why can't the Supreme Court say that? Why do they constantly have to just give in? Because they want to. Because there's enough people on there that like him enough and are benefiting so much from his policies that they want to agree with it. That's why. But the same thing with Harvard. Said that the judge concluded that all the money that the funding that he had decided just randomly pull away from Harvard for no other reason other than he didn't like them or he didn't like their DEI policies, which basically means he didn't like how they have black and brown people there and how they teach that history about racism and slavery in this country. Just a pretext for him to get control over them is all it is. But said that was unlawful. Said you can't do it. And same thing with the troops in LA. Gavin Newsom won the court case when he said that Trump unlawfully took control of the National Guard in California. By God, the court agreed. Said he can't do it. Now, but this is the little shell game that they play. So now all those got put on hold. All those rulings got put on hold to give Trump time to appeal. Why can't they just say no and let someone overturn it if they want to? I don't get it. It aggravates the crap out of me. I mean, they're going to let him just run roughshod over everything. I mean, that's where we're at right now. And lastly, the Epstein scandal looms large still. And there was a big conference just the other day with several of the, like a large group of the victims who were on Capitol Hill. They made a lot of statements. They got interviews with senators and with congresspeople, telling their story, telling their truth about what happened to them. And it was powerful. And it was heartbreaking in a way. It really was. I mean, these women were just brutalized by another rich billionaire. And Trump just says it's all a hoax. Oh, it's all a hoax. Just those Democrats, they're just trying to talk about a hoax when they should be talking about how great I am and how wonderful my presidency has been so far. Not for 1 second will he say, what happened to them was horrible and we should get to the bottom of it. No. And you want to know why? Probably has something to do with the fact that, there was an article came out years ago where he said that they've been best friends for over a decade. Best friends. He was on his plane all the time. They used to pop in and out of each other's offices. Best friends. Now, do I know that Trump did something untoward with any woman, underage or not? No, I don't know. But it looks super suspicious, doesn't it? I mean, my God. Sends his own personal attorney down there to Ghislaine Maxwell to make sure she gets on the record to say, oh, he was a perfect gentleman, and then Ghislaine ends up in the, club-fed prison, which is so low security they don't even have walls around it. I mean, but still you can't get Republicans to really do anything substantive about it. Comer, I mean, what a joke that is. Comer, he keeps, I'm sorry, and everybody from Kentucky, I'm sorry. Comer, he keeps putting out stuff that's already been out in the public sphere for decades about it. You know, saying, "Oh, we're releasing all kinds of stuff. Yeah, we're getting the bottom of it." Yeah, by giving us copies of everything we already have, except, and I'm sure they didn't mean for this to happen, but the so-called missing minute from the videotape that Pam Bondi said was a regular thing, and it was routine that minute would be gone because of some kind of resetting thing with the cameras in the system. Yeah, that was bullshit. The missing minute got out. TMZ broke the news and they posted it up everywhere. You can watch it. And you know what you see in the missing minute? You see some guard going in. Very strange. Very strange. Very unusual. Do I know what happened? No, of course not. But what I do know is that they keep trying to hide it. They keep trying to hide stuff. They keep trying to say there's nothing here, there's no there, even though they were the ones that kept on going on about it throughout their entire election campaign. So yeah, I mean, they look super suspicious. And you know, I mean, it doesn't take that much suspicion. I mean, seriously, it's... Anyway. So yeah. Oh, and that's another thing. Thomas Massey, who I disagree on probably most everything. But here lately, I've been liking the guy because he actually has some sense. He's actually trying to push back some. And he was working with the Democrats to make a discharge petition to try and actually release everything with all the Epstein files. And who would be signing on to that on the Republican side except the trifecta of women in Congress that are purely horrible? Somehow, and this still boggles my mind, I am currently in this issue on the side with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. What kind of bizarro world is this? You know what? Fine. I'll take all the allies we can get right now on anything. But, yeah, I mean, if there was any justice in the world, you know, RFK Jr. would be thrown out on his ass. The Mason County Data Center would be just disappear from our lives, and we wouldn't have to worry about that crap anymore. They would actually put people back in the CDC who know what they're talking about, actual scientists, actual doctors who know what they're doing. These court cases that Trump has lost, the Supreme Court would say, you know what, yeah, F you. You're doing illegal stuff, stop it. And, you know, one more, I think they only need one or two more Republicans to sign on to this stupid petition to actually release the Epstein files to everybody. And, you know, and I understand there's a lot of, you know, complications involved with that. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of tips and different things and innuendos in those files. Someone might have got a call about somebody, or hey, we think someone might have done this, maybe we should look into that. And there wasn't enough evidence to actually go after anybody. And you don't want to release stuff and it's just hearsay and everything. I get all that. But we're at a point where this is just so large in the national conversation right now. Some people are just going to have to take some crap, I guess. Anyway. Well, Spartans, I think I'm done for today. Stay strong out there. Get what vaccines you can. Apparently with the COVID vaccine, if you still have some kind of one or two medical complication history, I'm assuming it probably is things as simple as hypertension, high cholesterol, or diabetes, or anything like that. You can still get the COVID vaccine, but it's all in the air right now because of all this crap. And And we still have, I mean, as much as I will say, COVID isn't as bad as it used to be, and that's true, it's not. But, I mean, we still have several hundred people, I think a week, who die across the country from COVID complications. We still have people who have long-term COVID complications. Just because it's not as bad as it used to be doesn't mean you shouldn't protect yourself if you can. So anyway, try to stay safe. If you can't eat healthy, eat healthy. And yeah, we'll check in again here later, Spartans. Until then, stay strong. I'm out.